Alright, welcome back to Mr. Joyrider Gaming. This is Jared here with you, and today we're going to take a look at the games that were developed by Konami for the Atari 2600. Now, you know Konami, of course, because of the just wealth of amazing games they made, especially for the original Nintendo Entertainment System, including Castlevania Trilogy, Tiny Toons Adventures, Contra, all the Contra games that they made, including Super C. Good sports games, too, like Double Dribble, Blades of Steel, lots of great games made by Konami. Let's see how they did before all that, though, when they were developing ports for the Atari 2600 and other home console systems. We're going to focus on the 2600 today, and this is Atari 2600 games that were developed by Konami. Konami got started in 1969, and they were selling and repairing jukeboxes in the 70s. In 1978, they released their first arcade machine, which was either called Block Game or perhaps Space King. In fact, most of the games we're going to be talking about today were ports of already well-known arcade games, or mostly well-known arcade games. Developed by Konami, published by groups like Parker Brothers, Coleco, and Atari. These games vary from sports games to puzzle games, platformers, and even shooters. So here we are, Joyrider Gaming, and we are going to look at the Konami-developed games for the Atari 2600. As always, we'll go in alphabetical order rather than in order of greatness or in order of when they were released. So let's take a look at the first game called Amadar. I believe that's how you say it, Amadar. And, I'd never heard of this game, and I had never seen the arcade game before. I've seen it now. And this game is pretty much about the same as Pepper 2, if you've played that on ColecoVision, where you've got to fill in the lines to make boxes, and when you make boxes, you make enough, you can then go to the next screen. In this game, there are two different screens, one screen with monkeys, another screen with pigs, and it moves kind of slow on the Atari. I have played the arcade version now, and the arcade version is way too fast. And so you got the port for Atari, way too slow. Arcade version is way too fast. I will say, though, I was glad to find this game because I love Pepper 2. And there is no Pepper 2 for Atari 2600, so this is a good substitution for that if you don't have that. Maybe you can play it on one of your handhelds, or it's a pretty fun game. It's difficult, yeah, but it's a fun game, and I'm going to give this game a B because it's fun, but it's a little tedious. Oh, there's also the part where you can turn the bad guys into chickens for a second, which doesn't really do anything because then they become invisible and they come back. It's a whole thing. All right, Amadar gets a B. Alright, next up we've got the Cabbage Patch Kids game, which we reviewed in a previous video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, other than to say I gave it a C then, I'll give it a C now. It's got some different kind of, it's like Pitfall. It's like Pitfall meets Smurf. And it's not terrible, it's just not a lot of fun. So it gets a C. Next up, probably needs no introduction, you've got Frogger, and this is as far as I'm concerned, the quintessential version of Frogger. It's the one I grew up playing, and because of the difficulty switches, man, can I just say, the Atari 2600 and their difficulty switches are great, because you can make the game, it's like having a cheat code, having a Game Genie with just a flip of a switch. In the Atari 2600 version, you do not get crunched if you go through the wall, whereas you will in the arcade version, or if your difficulty is amped up if it's in the other position. Otherwise, this game also plays in black and white, which I think is cool. And, it's Frogger. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little sick of Frogger. I've been playing it for 40 years, and I've had many, many different versions of the same game, and what can you say? It's Frogger, and it's, you know, it's Frogger, and this is a cool version of it. Now, I do have an Atari Flashback that has a different version, like a homebrew version or something, but this is the version that I grew up playing, and it's the version that I like the best. It's a C. Next up, we've got Gyruss, and it is, or Gyruss, whatever. All these games are hard to pronounce. This was published by Parker Brothers, developed by Konami, 1984, and this is one of my favorite games on the Atari 2600 for the music alone. The game's background music is Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. You've heard it many times before, but this is a great arrangement of it, and I love listening to it. The only problem with the Atari 2600 version of this game, it's 1984, was that the only sounds in the game mostly are the soundtrack, the music, and so you don't have a lot of sound in the game. However, I found out that can be kind of like a hypnotic experience. Had this game growing up, I've played the arcade game many times, and I have played the Atari version many, many times, and I think the Atari 2600 version is probably the best version that you can get, because it's not so crazy. You know how sometimes shooters can be just crazy with a million things on the screen? It's not as crazy as that, and you can get pretty far and still have fun playing it. And this one gets an S. I love this game. All right, next up, published by Konami and developed by Konami, 1983 brings you Marine Wars on the Atari 2600, and this game is, actually, it's kind of fun. You know, it's sort of a Space Invaders type shooter game where you're, you know, on the bottom of the screen and they're dropping bombs on you and you're trying to destroy the ships. The interesting thing about this game is the way that your, I guess you would call it, a torpedo moves, because it kind of goes with the current of the water, which is kind of interesting and makes it a lot more difficult. There's a couple of different screens on this game, and, you know, it's pretty fun. I liked it. It's not the best game I ever played, and it's hard. It's hard to avoid the torpedoes that the other ships are shooting at you, but I would give this game a solid C. All right, next up, we've got, is it pronounced Puyon? Puyon? I think that's how you pronounce it. This was, again, published by Konami, 1982, developed by Konami, and this is a very, very well-known arcade game, especially in Japan. Okay, so the purpose of the game, or the game, you are a pig, and you are being lowered down to shoot these baddies, and you're trying to pop their balloons. And if you miss any of them, then they fall down to the bottom, and they're wolves, and they become wolves, and they climb up to the top, and they try to bite you. There's also a part where the wolves can push a big boulder on your head and kill you. There's a lot of ways to die in this game, you know? Whether it's their bullets, or their arrows, or the boulder, or they're going to bite you. There's a lot of ways to die. But it's challenging, but not so challenging that it's not fun to play. And I would give this game an A if it weren't for it being so brutally hard, but I'm going to give it a B. And I've played a couple of other versions of this game, and I like this one. The one for the Atari 8-bit is very good too, but this is a pretty good game. I'm going to give it a B. All right, now on to Roc'N'Rope. This is 1984, published by Coleco and developed by Konami. We covered this game in the Coleco video, where we ranked all the Coleco games for Atari 2600. And because this was published by Coleco, it was in that game. In that video, I gave this game an S. Now, I'm ranking these games amongst the other titles. So I'm going to still give it an S for all the reasons I gave before. I'm going to link down the video on the bottom if you want to check out that video. Roc'n'Rope's cool. It's an S. Okay, next up we've got Strategy X. And if you think about it, in 1981, the games were getting more and more complex. And I would say this is, a tank game, so you kind of got a combat vibe to this game. But it's like combat, but then it is also a scroller. Now it's a horizontal or a vertical scroller, and it is basically, you drive your tank through and you try to blow up enemies. Second stage has airplanes you got to blow up, and it's fine. It was fine to play. It's called Strategy X, and I don't know about if there's that much strategy that goes into it, and it's not terrible. It's just not a lot of fun. So it's going to get a D. Alright, 1983. This one is a shooter from Parker Brothers, developed by Konami, and this is called Super Cobra. You ever play Vanguard? This is a lot like that game. It's a lot like Vanguard. You're a helicopter instead of a spaceship, but you're basically doing the same thing. You can shoot down and you can shoot across, and you move fast. For it being a helicopter game, you're zooming right through this game. This game was a lot of fun to play, but again, it was very difficult, but not unfun. I like that. I like Vanguard. I really do, and so I like that it kind of is similar to Vanguard. I like that there are a lot of different enemies and a lot of different ways to mess up and die, and I don't like that there are so many little tight squeezes. Those are hard, but yeah, man, this game's cool. It's of the group of games so far, it's one of the better ones. It's called Super Cobra. Gotta go B. Alright, here's another one we rated in the last video, the Coleco games for Atari 2600. This is Time Pilot, developed by Konami. It's another one of the shooter genres, but there's so much different stuff that goes into this because the planes change, the time periods change. It's so much fun. This game got an S before, it's going to get an S again. If you want to find out more, you can check out the other video. Alright, now we're on to 1984. This is published by Atari. Konami developed it. It's called Track and Field, and this game is special because it comes with a special controller, the Track and Field controller, which is like a little blue controller with 3 buttons, and that's all you can control. There's no control stick, just those 3 buttons. And as far as emulation goes, I don't know that it's perfect without the controller. I was able to play the game, I was able to get pretty far in it, and I liked it. I would give this game a B because you need a special controller for it. If you don't have that controller, yeah. But it was still able to be played on emulation software. I played this one on Stella and was able to kind of remap the keyboard to be able to sort of act like that controller. There's several different events. There's the dash, and there's like a javelin throw, and is it a pole vault or no, a high jump? So a lot of different levels in this game. I normally am not that big on sports games or games like California games or winter games. Well, I got to give it an X though because I couldn't really play it. All right, we're just zipping through this list, aren't we? We're down to the last one. This is a game that was released in the arcades. It's called Tutankham, not Tutankhamun, Tutankham. And this was 1983, developed by Konami, published by Parker Brothers. I've seen somebody made a hack out of this and turned it into a Zelda game, sort of. But a Zelda game it's not. It's sort of a dungeon crawl, though. It's listed as an action game in the notes. There are different passageways that you can go in, and you can move all over the screen. You're trying to collect treasures while avoiding the bad guys, and you're trying to get to the end of the screen. You need keys to unlock doors, and when you get those keys, you can unlock them. The weird thing about this game is it's like Pac-Man, where your character doesn't stop moving unless he's hitting a wall. Otherwise, we'll just keep going left or right or down or up. And that makes it a little more challenging. The cool thing about this game is you've got not only your gun, but you've also got some flash grenades that'll take care of all the enemies on the screen. And that becomes essential because they will trap you and they will make sure that they kill you. But yeah, this is a great one. And I highly recommend it. Never played it before. It's a little bit odd looking. And the characters, the graphics aren't so beautiful. But, gotta go B. Man, I feel like we zipped through that list. No? Well, listen. We'll do one. We try to get one of these videos done every Wednesday, a ranking video, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday around 5 o'clock, we publish a game, a long play of a game. And they're mostly, at this point, Atari 2600 games, although sometimes there will be games for different systems. I just did a Super Nintendo one, a Nintendo Entertainment System one. I did 2 Coleco. So there is going to be other game systems in there, because, I do like all the sort of classic gaming. I do kind of want to get into Intellivision, because I've never really played a lot of the Intellivision games, so there might be some of that coming up as well. But yeah, man, it's Mr. Joyrider Gaming, and check out the other videos. If you want to subscribe, that'd be great. You can like it and share and do all those things. Comment below. And I will see you when I see you. I gotta roll, but I will see you when I see you next time. As always, God bless, good luck, and good day, sir. I said good day, sir.